YouTube, Quinn Wade, coming to y'all with that basketball analysis on analysisplayground.com and on YouTube. We're going to talk about what to expect from the Utah Jazz. This is a team that finished 31 and 51 last season, having a bad season. They seem like they could be in the playoff hunt. They seem like they can do some things in the NBA, and ultimately they fell flat as a team and as an organization, and they're in retooling build mode with Danny Ainge, a guy that has led the Celtics to a championship in 2008 and another finals appearance in 2010, and now he's trying to do something different with the Utah Jazz. And this has been an interesting journey with them. As I would say, most people would agree with that, as you have guys like Laurie, the finisher, marketing a guy that was showed a huge amount of improvement and a huge amount of growth, just like a guy that can relate to him, and Jordan Clarkson being a guy that was in the G League fighting his way up to being, an NBA player that made himself a six-man of the year, that made himself, a 20-point scorer on a nightly basis almost. You look at this team and you have a lot of guys with a lot of pride and a lot of dignity, integrity about themselves, and it just made sense as a group to perform and do the things that they did. Now, obviously, they don't have enough talent, especially in the Western Conference, when there's already like 8 teams that even a kid that's 5 years old can figure out that possibly can be in the playoffs and in the play-in tournament. So I do honestly feel that the Utah Jazz is going to fall short of being in the playoffs, and they're going to fall short of being in the play-in tournament. But I think Jazz fans will like that because they can possibly add a new piece to this team and give them a brighter future. As although they have some veterans on this roster, they do have a good mixture of young players too, with some good promise. Guys like Taylor Hendricks, guys like Keontae George, guys like Kyle Flipowski are guys with huge upside and even have two-way potential. And then you got guys like Walker Kessler, a big, strong body that can protect the rim and rebound and has more growth and more experience potentially, that he could be something that can continue to be great for the Utah Jazz just by knowing his game and knowing his role. And then, of course, you got the guys like Patty Mills, Jordan Clarkson, and, guys of that type of ilk, even Steve Mikhailuk, that can just bring veteran experience, veteran know-how, understanding the game, playing the game the right way, staying out the way, being some type of mentor to some of these younger guys. And then, you also have guys like Cody Williams, where you like what you see, you like what you getting from him already in Summer League, and you think he has a bright future at 19 years old. He has a huge amount of growth that I can just see him being just as good as his brother. And just by watching Summer League, I think a lot of Utah fans would agree with me, and just the people that just understands and knows basketball in general agree with that they have some guys on this team that 2 to 3 years from now, Utah can win an extra 9 to 10 games and put themselves in a play-in tournament conversation faster than what people think after adding another piece in the draft. And I think Colin Sexton, people forget that he's not even that old. He's only 25 years old, and he's still been growing and playing well and fitting well with the culture that Utah has established. And he makes sense as a guy that's a competitor. He's a guy that really can shoot and space the floor and create his own shot. He's not the greatest passer, but he still has a great feel for the game, and you can always put him with other playmakers to hide that blemish. But as long as he can put the ball in the basket, and as long as he can kind of defend the position, it makes sense to have him on a roster like this, where everybody can create their shot to a certain extent and make shots if they have the opportunity. And I feel like there's some guys on this roster like Isaiah Wong or Oscar or Jason or Makai Potter that ain't going to really get too much time and too much praise from the coach. And I feel like it's also a situation where you only have 8 to 10 players that's actually going to play, because you got the guys that's going to be filling in 10 to 15 minutes because somebody get injured. That it makes sense why they feel that way. You can even say the same thing about Tavion Kinsley. He's not going to probably be on the roster. If he is, he probably might not be on the roster that much longer, just like the other guys that I mentioned. And it's understandable because of that reason of Too much young talent can be competitive. It can be fun. It can be interesting. It gives you something to pay attention to. It gives you something to watch. But it also gives you a lot of heartbreak because a lot of these guys aren't going to be able to make the final roster, or a lot of these guys, this is the first time they lost their first job, or this is the first time that they have to find a way to rethink how they should process failure, because you can always make it to another team, you can always get traded, you can always get picked up right away, but none of it is guaranteed. Johnny also is another guy that he's a big body, he's very strong and got good size for his position, but I don't really see him playing a ton of minutes. I think that Filipowski is one of the few rookies that I can see being a major cog in what they're trying to do. And I think that he is going to be an important player possibly for them even in the future. I know you can say we already got Marketing, we already got Walker Kessler, but you do need backups, and you do need guys that can play multiple positions while still giving you floor spacing. And they learned that from Lauri Markkanen. Look how much better they performed. Look how much better their offense was. Look how much better that the team was able to play their style and even make their own type of identity after that Markkanen trade. And I think that's why he's been essential to what they've been trying to build there. And having one star usually gets you another star. And then it's just about gathering the assets to be able to make that trade possible and realistic for a team to want to do. Then after that, you continue to build upon what you've been doing, and then you go in on trying to win the championship if you can. None of this stuff, like I said, is promised. None of this stuff is guaranteed, but it's just interesting to see how fast that Danny Ainge was able to put a lot of pieces on the board, and they got a lot of guys with a huge upside that I can see them, being completely different roster-wise in the next 2 years just because of that reason. And then you look at John Collins, another guy that people think he's 32, 33 years old because how he looks and how he plays, but he's only 27. Like, he's still a big body that can make a mid-range, that can set screens, that can roll to the basket and finish with strength and power. He can knock down his free throws at a decent clip, and I feel like he's going to be a contributor no matter what teams he's on. He's a guy that's a starting caliber player. He's a guy that is really good physically, and he imposes his will sometimes, and you need somebody that can be an inside present with a nice little finesse touch too. And I think like John Collins been able to show that no matter what team he plays for. He could be, a guy that can wear on you a little bit, or a guy that can annoy you a little bit, but you got to deal with what comes with the player that you wanted to get. And I think that Utah understands that. Drew Eubanks, he's another one of those guys that's not going to get too much playing time or have that much of an impact, unfortunately. But he knows that coming to a roster like this that's power forward and center heavy, that he's going to be the third or the fourth string guy, and he's just going to have injuries help him be able to gather a ton of minutes on this particular roster. But this team does scream, we almost there to get another guy. We just got to find a team that's willing to give up on a star or a superstar and try to capitalize off that move, and then try to build our pieces around a duo or a tandem that can really do damage like we feel that they can. And it's good to get that type of understanding early. And I think that Danny Ainge is one of the biggest risk takers. He's one of the guys that understands when to trade guys, when to bridge that loyalty gap, when to not let business intervene with the relationship, but make sure they know and understand that this is a game where I'm trying to put the team in the best position talent-wise to be able to win games too, not just trying to collect a bunch of talent that don't fit or don't mesh or play well, or doing something like that in general. He understands what his ultimate goal is, and that's to bring a championship to Utah and bring more talent that actually coexist together better. And I think he's gathering the talent just to make that one move that can really make the conversation about Utah again, which we haven't seen since the 90s, really, because that's the only team that really had a huge run in Utah history. Then you look at Max, he's not going to play that much, might not even be on the roster, but it's worth mentioning because he did get a spot going into training camp. Now we got to see if he's going to stay on there. And then Isaiah, he's a guy with a huge potential, another 19-year-old. I don't think he's going to get a lot of playing time or a lot of minutes or a lot of opportunity, but just growth and development in practice and scrimmages, and just being prepared and having next man up mentality when it's needed, just because it might be your time in the future. And like I said, Colin Sexton is not that old, and they kind of do need a backup point guard with speed and quickness and strength. And I think that Isaiah is a nice big guard that has the ability to play point guard if needed. And I think that he has the understanding of how to run the offense a little bit in USC. He was showing that. And I think that he can be a difference maker too for Utah in another 2 to 3 years. About the time he's 22, he should have the game figured out. But then again, like I said, Colin Sexton is 25, and 3 years from now he'll be 28, entering his prime almost, and he should be, still a better player because he came out, as a great player early in his career, and now he's trying to revamp himself and relearn how to play the position that he's locked into on this roster. And I think that, Isaiah can, teach him things in training, and he can teach him some things, and they can bounce ideas off each other because you always need a backup. And I think that's why they went for Isaiah, and I feel like he can be a guy that can be a good piece for them, and even a six-man type of guy like Jordan Clarkson is. But it depends on what direction this team goes in and what they have to give up to get the other star that they want to have on this roster with a guy like Lauri Markkanen. And then you kind of do wonder, is Lauri Markkanen a guy that you can really depend on as a number two guy? Is he a number two, or is he the third option? Is he a Kevin Love? Is he a Chris Bosh? Is he an Al Horford type of guy where the screen setting and the mid-range shooting and the free throw shooting and the three-point shooting is great, but it's only going to work because you're a complementary player and you can play off others better than you can create for yourself? And if that's the case, then it makes sense to have that type of guy already on the roster, already ready to go, and his confidence on another level. Then we can just continue to patch and fill in the blank around his roster. So other than that, I look at the Utah Jazz as a team that, because they have Trader Danny, and because of that reason, they always going to be in that conversation. What are they doing next? What's going to happen next? What can they do to make this team better? What is he going to do to make this team better? What can he really do to change the culture and turn his team back to a team that can make it to the finals again? I'm not questioning what he's going to do. I'm not questioning what he can or can't do because he proved it already, like I said earlier in the video. But this team looks a little messy. It looks a little stacked at certain positions. It looks like he's trying and learning different things with his roster, what works and what doesn't work. And then he also building a lot of young assets that are our own good contracts, our own tradable contracts, and stackpiling them to be able to make that move or another move like he did with the Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen trade to get them where they need to go, as a team and as an organization. So he's a guy that, out of all GMs that have been GMs, he's a guy that can do it. He's a guy that has proved it. And I think that it's going to be interesting to see what he ultimately chooses to do with this particular roster, even in the future. So what I expect for this team, I don't expect them to be a playoff team. I don't expect them to be a play-in team, but I expect them to eventually get back to the playoffs in the future. It's just some rocky moments is going to happen this year, last year, the year before that, before they start figuring out what direction and what type of team they want to be and how they're going to go in that direction. Is going to still be something that we have to continue to watch, and it's going to be so important to see each and every year because Danny Ainge is just that aggressive. He's just that smart, and he just knows how to get talent and evaluate talent and talk to his scouts to get the right guys on his roster and possibly develop them and become a great team again. So it's just building blocks, baby steps, incremental improvements that can turn into a monumental improvement, and that's what Danny Ainge does. Let's put that in perspective because that is their GM, and that's what he has built a reputation of. So we got to give him credit for doing it and becoming a champion with that mentality, and putting the Celtics in a situation where they went to the 2022 playoffs, got to the finals again, and they was able to win the championship this year because of some of the moves he made to put them in position to win with Brad Stevens in the Celtics organization. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown don't be with the Celtics if it ain't for the moves that Danny Ainge was able to make. He was able to get a Kyrie Irving. He was able to get a Kemba Walker. He was able to get a Gordon Hayward. He was able to get, some of these guys that can defend, and he was able to put the Celtics in a really, really great position. And I think he can do the same thing for the Utah Jazz. Now it's just wait and see. Can he do it? Will he do it? And when will he do it? And what would be the guys that actually are the ones that's getting traded? to try to bring a championship to Utah. Other than that, comment, like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell for more analysis. If you love analysis and you need more of it, this is the place that created it, made it popular, made it into pop culture, and it has been essential to a lot of things in the world now, especially as a phrase, especially as a word. But I appreciate the fact that y'all been liking and subscribing and sharing and hitting the notification bell so this channel can stay popular, this channel can stay around. And also, if you're new to the channel, check out my older videos, and if you've been subscribed for a while, also check out my older videos, because it may be something that you missed or you skipped and you wanted to watch and you just didn't have the opportunity to. Plus, it helps the channel continue to meet the goals that's set every single year, and we have been able to do this for 10 plus years, and I'm still enthusiastic that we can continue to do it this way, and fans can continue to love it all over the world. So I need you fans to continue to do your job as I continue to do my job. Working hand in hand makes the channel grow and develop into what it can continue to be, and we'll see what happens in the future, even with this channel. Other than that, I'm gone. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day.